This is why you need a flex fuel sensor. Ethanol content, looking good. Got this key coded too, it's pretty sick. What's up YouTube, it's Sook Meat, everyone calls me Sook, and today I'm telling you how to run E85 in your N55 X5 or N55 powered car the correct way. Now for reference, I've been running E85 in my car since 2022, first on BootMod's OTS E30 maps with high pressure fuel pump enabled, and then on custom E50 standalone maps, and then on full flex fuel tunes on both stock turbo and now on my Musselman setup. So I've got a little bit of experience, and today we'll talk about what you need to run E85 in your car the correct way. Now, if you've been running an E30 map on your car and you don't have a high pressure fuel pump, I'm here to tell you that you're not an ethanol guy, you're not FBO E30, you're just don't have enough money to buy a high pressure fuel pump. So let me tell you why that's the most important thing you need to run E85. Ethanol by design requires up to 30% more volume based on the amount of air going in the engine. What that means is your high pressure fuel pump needs to flow up to 30% more to keep that rail pressure up and get your injectors to keep flowing enough fuel. You absolutely need a high pressure fuel pump to run E85 properly, and that way if you're running an OTS map or your tuner is having you use a flash option, you can actually use that flash option and you'll notice a significant difference on E30 or E50, let's say. Now, if you decide to go with the B58 TU pump or something like a DS15 or a Dorch Stage 1 like I used to have, you will be limited to E50 on your stock turbo setup and probably E40 on an upgraded turbo. That's just limitations of how much that pump flows. So my tuner from David Shoup from the very get-go recommended you should just go with the Stage 2. And what I'm running now is a Nostrum Stage 2 pump. There's others on the market like a DS25 or Precision Raceworks, etc., etc. So you absolutely want a Stage 2 pump if you want to run full E85 because it'll have enough flow to keep the rail pressure up and keep the injectors happy. The next thing you obviously need is a tune, right? You need the tune to support the extra ethanol and the adjustment in air-fuel ratios because it will run differently. If you're running an OTS map, go ahead and check the flash option for whatever pump you're running. And if you have a custom tune, let your tuner know that you've upgraded your pump so they can either, write their own tables or have you use a flash option. For example, David Shoup on my Nostrum pump, he wrote the tables for the pump, and actually I have EU5 injectors. He wrote his own tables for those injectors as well. Tuners do their own things, talk to your tuner about what's best for your particular setup. The next thing you're gonna need, and or rather you don't need, but what I recommend is a flex fuel sensor. For X5s, X6s, F85s, F86s, there's no off-the-shelf kit. I actually talked to Pro Tuning Freaks and MHD back in 2022 when I was trying to get that running on my own car, and what they basically told me was, and what I confirmed rather, was that the top hat on the low pressure fuel pump fitting is different than the other cars, and it's just because it's bigger by design and so on and so forth. So basically you can't use those flex fuel kits. So what I'm running in my car is a Z-Tronics kit that is a generic off-the-shelf kit that's CAN bus compatible, and I had it installed into the CAN bus system into the car, so I'm able to then use flex fuel fully and enable to pull ethanol content up on the gauge display in my MHD app like you saw at the beginning of the video, or in the actual gauges themselves in the gauge cluster. I personally recommend a flex fuel sensor, whether you integrate it into your CAN bus system or not, that's up to you, because you should very much be monitoring your ethanol content. Even if your content is, 5, 6, 7% off, that's enough to throw off your air fuel ratios and, cause your car to run lean and create a bunch of heat in your pistons and in your combustion chambers. I'm very much a proponent of monitoring your ethanol content to make sure it's the exact quantity. Yeah, you can run test kits that you can buy online with, the pump that you're using and things like that, but you're essentially mixing, right? So at least until you start running full E85. So I personally recommend a full flex fuel sensor. I have one with the gauge that I've mounted on the car. And then, like I said, if you do integrate it into your CAN bus system, you still don't have to have the gauge, but what that enables you to do is now pull it into your gauge cluster, and that enables you to actually have a flex fuel tune, because it'll be talking with the CAN bus system as the content changes in real time to adjust properly. So for example, because the car's been flex fuel enabled since 2022, I drove it from Kansas City to Colorado Springs, from Kansas City to Detroit to the East Coast, while mixing 91 here, E85 there, blah, 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 right? Just based on what I could find. And it worked out great, and the car would adjust automatically, right? I don't have to watch anything or worry about anything. If you actually watch the logs or the data monitoring in real time after you adjust it, you can see the car, like if you're adding ethanol, it's going to richen itself out while it's bringing the content up, right? Or if you're decreasing it, the car will lean itself out. Like you can see the fuel trims adjusting in real time as the content's changing, which is pretty cool if you're into that type of stuff. But again, my recommendation, if you're going to do it the right way, like I'm recommending in this video, you should absolutely run a flex fuel sensor. Okay, so what we've talked about so far, having just the pump and a tune will enable you to run E50 if you have a stage 1 pump, or full E85 if you have a stage 2 pump. Flex fuel sensor will enable you to monitor your content as well as enable your car to be flex fuel tuned if integrated through the CAN bus system. And then the last thing I want to talk about is a low pressure fuel pump that you'll need if you decide to upgrade your turbo and upgrade your fueling on your car even more. If you add more air to your car, say you upgrade your turbo, you inherently need to add more fuel, right? So when you upgrade the turbo, your stock turbo pump may have been running E50, for example, but the upgraded turbo might only be able to cap out at E40 if you're running a stage 1 pump, right? So if you run a stage 2 pump and upgrade your low pressure fuel pump, I put a Walbro 450 in the stock basket on this car because no one makes anything. So like with everything else, I've had to, figure it out myself first and then recommend the solution to everyone. So in any case, on this car, Walbro 450 pump in the stock basket. I replaced all the lines, all the hoses with new ones from Radium Engineering, new fuel filter sock at the bottom. And then I topped it off with a EKP cooler kit from Arc Terminator. They actually developed one for the car because of what I was able to talk to them about developing. So other owners, you're welcome. But anyways, low pressure fuel pump, you're going to want that additional pump to flow that full E80 if you want to run full E85 on your upgraded turbo setup, because again, inherently you need more fuel volume, right? So you need a pump that can flow more volume to keep the high pressure fuel pump flowing enough into the rails to keep the injectors happy, right? It's all a system that needs to flow enough correct. If you're going to upgrade your turbo, upgrade your, other parts of your fueling system, low pressure fuel pump is a good one to consider. One little bonus tip I'll add, actually, since we're talking about this, is when I made the switch from Dorch to Nostrum, it required the use of switching flash options in my tuning software. And what we learned was on MHD, at least, the Nostrum flash option for high pressure fuel pump just isn't configured correctly, where the car was actually running lean and at idle and under low load. So, but once you were on it, it was fine. But under low load and at idle, it was running max lean and throwing codes and everything like that. So in talking to Shoop, we learned that it's just the way those tables are written for that flash option. And that's why he recommends, writing own tables, but talk to your tuner. They're the experts, right? I'm not an expert, they are. And that's what David Shoop recommended for me. So anyways, that's everything you need to run E85 in your car properly. Like I said, I've run it on E50 standalone. I've run it on E30 standalone. I've run it on full flex on stock turbo. I've run it on full flex on this Mosselman turbo setup since 2023. It's 2 years now. So, I have a little bit of experience. I highly recommend, if you can get the high pressure fuel pump to start your ethanol journey, you'll notice such a big difference from the non-high pressure fuel pump map if you're using OTS and stuff. Like, it's night and day. I don't even tell people to worry about E30 if you're not putting a pump in. Like, this is what you need to start this journey. Thanks as always for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm always, trying to put helpful info out, so I hope you find this information helpful, and please leave a comment on this video and a like, and make sure you subscribe. So thanks as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.